Okay, so should I start the class? Santosh Kaka? Okay, since not many people are here right now, I guess we can review what we did last week. So I'll just pull up last week's slides. So last week we didn't do this play along game making, but I showed you an example of a manual search algorithm, which was basically I just took a search for like letter 1 of Apple, or if Apple contains A, I took like this block and I made an entire program to do it myself basically. You guys didn't need to understand that. You just needed to see that Scratch has a lot of these blocks that take larger programs and smush them into just one block. Then for HTML, we reviewed the style attribute. So does everybody remember what the style attribute does? If not, I can show an example in the online editor. Okay, so, oh, it looks like it's just the two of you today. Okay, so I forgot. So today we're going to be going over images. You don't need to look at this at this moment. So what the style was like. Okay, so what style was like is if I put, or wait, I can just do it in this, what is it? In this header. That's, so it'd be style equals, then color red, I believe it was. Yeah, so what the style does inside a tag, if you put h2 or like paragraph tag, and then immediately inside that opening tag, you put style equals then quotation marks, color, semicolon, I believe, red. And then if you want to add more style elements like font size, then you would need to add this little thing to make sure that your computer understands that, oh, you're adding multiple style elements. So within these quotation marks, then you can have the style types, the attributes, and what exactly you want to set them as. So over here, we've selected the color of the header, and we want to set it to red. So does everybody understand that? Sir, can we put any color? Yes. So I can put blue. And as I showed last week, so you can go to W3 HTML color picker. So it'll give you a larger range of colors to choose from. So say you want, instead of like the basic colors, you want like a pink like this. So this doesn't have a name. So what you would do is that you would take like either this or RGB, the red, green, and blue values. You would copy it, and then you would go and you would put it into here, and then it would set it to that. Because every computer has that standardized RGB system. And that's how HTML colors work. So does everybody understand that? Okay. So for today, my plan was to go and do that play along game building that I was planning on doing last week. So for that, this is just going to be a simple game. I guess we can add apples to our program. And what we're going to do is that we're going to make these apples glide down. We're going to make them slowly glide down in a straight line. And we're going to be constantly checking for two things. Are we at the bottom edge of the screen? Or are we touching the cat? And for both things, then we're going to teleport it back up to the top. We're going to set the y coordinate to 146. And we're going to make it choose a random x coordinate from negative 186 to I guess positive 186 or 200. Negative 200 and positive 200. So does everybody understand like the basic premise of the game? We're going to make these apples go down and we're going to control the cat. So we're going to be controlling the cat and we want it to make it hit the apples to make our score go up. So how to copy the sprite. So what you do is that you right click and you duplicate. Duplicate. So does everybody understand the premise? Okay. So then we're going to go in and try to make the game. So first thing we need to set up is a variable. So we have my variable, right? So I'm just going to delete all of these. And so for our first apple, we're going to, when this is clicked, we want an infinite loop forever. And this is just a basic game. We're not going to make like a point limit or whatever. We're just going to make it keep on counting. So forever, we want it to, if, we're going to have an if else. So if we're touching the edge, touching edge, then look or motion. Set y to 148 and then set x to, we need to find a random number. So pick random from what we said, negative 200 to positive 200. So this will be the way that we reset the position if it's touching the edge. And the next one is, oh yeah, I forgot. First thing we need to do is set my variable to 0, as always. Then, forever, if we're touching the edge, then we set our y to 148, and then we set our x to pick random negative 200 to positive 200. Okay, actually, just to keep it safe, I'm gonna do 145, just to make sure. Then otherwise, we're gonna have another if else. Otherwise, if we're touching, what is it, sprite 1? Oh, if we're touching sprite 1, then we do the same thing. So we're gonna go to motion, set y to 145, set x to duplicate, and then, oh, oh. Well, I just found out how you can copy the code to other ones. So there you go. You just right click, duplicate, and then you can put it in any other sprite. So wait, does it work like that? Nope, never mind. Uh, my mistake. So then we set y to 145, and then we set x to a random number. Otherwise, we just glide. What is it? Or we move. Change y by 10. So okay, that does not seem to be working. So I think we'll just set the direction of this to 180, and then we can do move 10 steps, because that seems to, yeah. So now we have a way that our thing will move randomly. So then if it's touching sprite 1, what we also want to do is we want to change my variable by 1. And I think we'll actually make a new variable. So test, because this will all, yeah. So now we'll have, this automatically creates a box that shows what our variable is at. So say we do this. So it's showing it as touch 3 times. So then what we want to do for our sprite 1 is we just have to set up normal. Oh wait, first, does everybody understand what I did with the apple? If you don't, let me know and I'll go in and explain. Okay, so what the purpose of our apple, as we said before, is that we want it to glide down, and when it touches the edge, we want it to teleport back up. We want it to teleport back up and then start gliding up again. But what we want it to do, instead of teleporting back up to its original starting position, is we want it to choose a random x coordinate between our negative 200 to 200 range and then start gliding down. And then our second condition is if it's gliding down and then it touches our sprite, we want it to do the same thing as before, but on top of that, we want it to increase our test variable by 1, because our test variable is our score per se. So if it's not doing either of those two things, then we just want it to move 10 steps, which will allow it to seem like it's just gliding down or it's falling down. So you can see right now, because it's just randomized, sometimes there are like 3 or 4 where it hits it repeatedly. But yeah. So do you understand it now? So I think the hardest part of the apple is probably the fact that we have what is called a compound if statement. So we have an if else statement inside of an if else statement. So in reality, we could have switched the position of either of these things, because we don't really have a hierarchy. Like we don't prefer if it's touching the edge or touching the sprite, because the general thing that we're doing is the same. But if you had something where you wanted it to like delete itself, if you had something where it could be doing the same thing at both the times, like it could be touching the edge and the sprite at the same time, uh, then what you would want to do is you would want to see which one you prioritize more. So uh, say we prioritized it touching the sprite over it touching the edge. So say it was like right here, and in this instant where it's touching the edge and the sprite, right now, what the Apple would do is that it would just set it to, it would just teleport it back up to the top at a random X coordinate. And it wouldn't register the fact that you touched it. So your score would not go up by 1. However, if we switch the positions around, in this situation, it would increase the score by 1. And then it would go up and check and see that it's at the edge. Uh, Actually, I wouldn't even go and check if it was at the edge because actually, yeah, I would. It would. So does everybody understand that? I'm just gonna assume that you guys did. So then next we have our cat. And what we want to do with the cat is that we just want to set up 2 things, a left arrow and a right arrow. So what we want to do when the left arrow is pressed is we move, when we want to do what the right arrow, what we want to do when the right arrow is pressed is we want to move 10 steps, and we do the opposite when the left arrow is pressed. So negative 10 steps. So we can just set our cat here. And so then we're going to duplicate it, and that should be enough. So now we have our semi-functional game where we can control the cat, and these apples glide down and teleport back up to the the top when we touch them. So you can see right now I'm controlling the cat, and each time I touch an apple, the score goes up, right? If I give you guys scratch homework, it's going to be something simple like this. It's not going to be anything really difficult. So does everybody understand what the sir, it is not working. What exact issue are you having with the program? Like what isn't working? The apple or the cat? Because if it's the apple, I can just show the code that I have for it. Okay, so I'll just show the code that I have for it. So you can just take a look at it and just copy it. And honestly, this is like a pretty easy way just to make a game for yourself to play in your own free time, to be honest. So if you want to, you can look at it, not just Anushka, everyone. So it's getting terrible. What exactly do you, okay, like is it not teleporting to the top? Or is it like increasing the score by a lot when you touch it once? So it's not teleporting to the top. Okay. So You might need to check exactly the dimensions of your grid because my dimensions may be a bit different from yours. So over here, I can clearly see that like it's at 204 and it's not touching the edge, and it's at Y 141 and it's not. So I might set up the bounds that way. So you should go and see where exactly the edges of your grid are, because if it's getting unscrambled. Okay, so are you doing the go to? Are you using the go to block? Okay. So where do we get set block? Okay, so set is just down here. It's in the later half of the motion blocks, and it's part of the change and set combo. Okay, so you're not using the you're not using the go to block. Uh You can always, after you have the set thing, just to make sure now, you can have a set direction block. Okay, just to make sure, since you're having this problem, set direction to 180 and do that for shoot, man, all I wanted was one block. Okay, and then you do that same thing up here. So that'll make sure that it's pointed the right direction. Okay. Oh, I got it. Okay, so that's good. So does anybody have any other questions for this game? Yeah? Yeah, I'm not. I mean, if it worked, then I mean, you don't really need to have that block. If it's working, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. That's the saying. So, oh, it's not working. Uh, well, so what block don't you have? Say exactly which block, so I know, because many of my games. Yeah, I get that, but which block don't you have? Can you just say the name of the block? Because I would rather not do a guessing. Touching apple. So you don't have the sensing block. It's it's this touching mouse pointer one. You just need to select that drop down menu. Do you not have the touching block in general? I have. So you do have a touching block. It's not showing sprite one. Uh, Try using the online editor instead of the offline one. That might that might have it. Sir, it is moving side by side of Apple. Uh, Aryan, so, like, do you mean that it's moving like this? It's not moving like this. So instead of moving up and down, it's moving left and right, the apples. Okay, okay. So, okay, so do you have the direction of the apple set to 180? Remember, you have to have that the direction set to 180 for it to work. Yeah, so that's your problem. So you need to set it to 180. Otherwise, what it does is that it moves 10 steps, right? But it moves in the direction that it's in. So 90 is to the right. So it's moving to the right. Yeah, so if you just set it to 180, so you don't need to have a block for it. So what you just do is that you have this thing here and you would click on Apple and then we go to direction and you would type in 180. Where is it? It's right here. And if you guys want me to give you the URL to the online editor, because I know the offline editor has multiple versions, I believe. So if you're not like up to date with the offline version one, or if you're missing a block or something, then just use the online one. Since I'm going to be assigning, or I'm going to be doing examples on Scratch based off of the online editor's blocks. So I would honestly prefer it if you use the online editor rather than the offline. Are you using this exact link? Okay, and it still doesn't show you the touching sprite one. Do you have a sprite one in your like theater or whatever, your stage? Okay, so you have a sprite one, but it's not showing. And okay, just to make sure, does your touching block have a drop down menu? So, okay. And is your cat named Sprite1 or cat? So it's named Sprite1, but it's still not showing. Huh. Honestly, I have no idea why it would be doing that, but the general idea of this was for you guys to understand how exactly to work this out. So, Anusha, if Anushka, if I'm correct, that's the only problem with your program, right? You can't set up the touching sprite one. Everything else you've set up, right? Correctly, the how to move the cat and how it would score how the system would score it if it were touching the sprite one. Okay, so as long as you have that general thing, then that's all I would really want. Because as I said last class, this is then like a limitation of your technology. Uh, I wouldn't even say it's your hardware at that point. It's the fact that Scratch isn't giving you that option. Uh, so I think with that, that'll be the end of Scratch for today. And then for HTML, I think we're gonna go on a 5-minute break. Yeah, so we can go on a 5-minute break right now. Uh, we'll stop presenting, and then in 5 minutes we'll come back to HTML. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it was supposed to be the 5 minute break, so I did show the scratch, but I didn't look at the chat after that. Okay, HTML's link, please. Okay, so W3 online editor HTML. You guys can just type that up. Don't really need to ask for the link every time, but I'll give the link. Okay. So now we move on to Scratch. To HTML. So now we have the style in the header. So if we go back, so we have our body. And for the style in the header, we need to set up the head tag, right? So do that. Then here we have a paragraph tag. Okay. Hello world. Okay. So now we have this. So last week we learned about putting style in the actual tag. Okay, and we learned that it only affects one tag. So if we have another paragraph tag that says test, that instead of being the color red, it will be black. So does everybody understand that the style in a tag, when it's within a tag, not its own separate tag, only affects that specific paragraph tag. It does not affect any other paragraph tags. It only affects that one. So does everybody understand that? Okay, no, sir. Okay, so we put up a style. Do you understand the whole concept behind a style element? Uh, Aryan, Anushka, do you understand the concept behind a style element? Okay, so just to make sure, so what a style element does, so if we read this like as as the computer would read this, so it reads that you want a paragraph. So in a paragraph tag, it has a certain preset. So in a paragraph tag, what it does is that it knows that it has a certain font size, and it has a certain color, has a certain font style. It has is it bold, italic, etc. So it presets these. So it has like a font size of like 14 naturally, and it has the color black if you don't change anything. It has the font style Times New Roman. Then it isn't bold or italicized. What we can do with the style element is that we can change those presets. So we select an attribute within these quotations. So here we have selected the color. So naturally, the paragraph tag is black. So we've selected that color attribute and we've set it to red instead of black. So do you understand that? That's the basic concept behind the style element. Okay, so then the concept beyond that is that this style preset, or well, the style that we have set is only for this specific paragraph line. It does not extend to this second paragraph line. So over here, we've highlighted this on the code. This is what this one is. And we can see that it's black, not red. like we've selected up here. So does everybody understand that? Okay, so moving on, uh, now instead of, we're going to take this out and we're going to move on to our concept of a style tag. So now we have a style tag. And what we do here is, if I remember correctly, if we want to change the style of the P, the paragraph tag, like we did before, and say we want to do color red, like before, okay? Now we have, in our previous example, we set the paragraph red within that specific tag. Now within the style, what this does is that it searches for every paragraph tag in your HTML code and sets the color to red. So now, instead of having to go in and set the color to red for every tag like individually, now the preset color is now changed to red. So now if we wanted to change the second one to black, we would actually have to go in and do style equals and then color black. We would have to do that manually. That is no longer the default setting for our HTML. Now the default setting for a paragraph is color red. And we can change like font type. I think that's the word. I'm not gonna do that. Like font size. Font size is one that I know for sure. So 14. Or I think it's 18 already. 14 already. Okay, well, it seems that that isn't the proper syntax. Whatever. So you guys get the concept, right? So now, instead of doing everything individually, everything is now preset to red. So does everybody understand that? Okay. Uh, so I'll go through it again. So before, if I had to show, so before we had style equals, and then we had our quotation marks, color, red, and that would change the specific color of just this tag. It would only do it for this paragraph line. It wouldn't change this one. So you guys understood that. What we're doing now is that within the style tag, it does the same thing as before. So it does the same thing, except for the small fact that now we're setting every paragraph tag that we make and will make to red. So now every tag that we make, if I make a new tag, paragraph, uh, new, and I do that, that is now red. It's the default color for our paragraph tags are no longer black. It's now red. So what the style tag does in the header is that it changes the preset values for those specific attributes which we mentioned to the ones that we set. So do you understand that now? Okay, so you got it. So that's basically it for the style element for today. And next we're going to move on to images. So uh, we have, so what we have here is, I showed a style in our example before. Now we have our image. So for today, I'm not going to, you don't need to focus on these for your guys' information. You're just manually setting the size of your image to 460 pixels and 345 pixels. Then this, uh, okay, so image is just one tag. You don't need an opening and closing tag. It's just a opening tag basically. So you set image, and then your source is the URL of the image. So if you were doing this on your device, something that it would do, so what you would have to do is that the image that you want to put in your HTML, you would have to put it within the folder that your HTML is in. So let me just present my screen, my full screen real quick. So if I wanted to put an image, what I would have to do is I would go in HTML class, and here I have my test HTML document, right? So if I wanted to put an image in, what I would have to do is I would have to go to image of black hole, okay? So what I would have to do is I would have to save image as, then I would go to Windows C, I would go to, or I would just go to my documents, then I would go to HTML class, and I would put it within this folder. So then you would go here, and what you would do open with, and you would go to Notepad, and then you would put image, the src equals, and here the name of our file is rename. If we just set it to download, okay, if we just set it to download, then it's download. And since our type of the image is a JPEG file, it's JPG. Okay. And then we save that, and then we would go open with Google Chrome, and we can see. So the image, so what you would put in the source is just the name of the image dot, and if it's a JPEG file, you put JPEG. Sometimes images will get stored as a PNG file, PNG. So then you would put PNG. So you would need to make sure that uh, you need to make sure of your image type. Okay? Does everybody understand that? Okay, no, sorry. Okay, so if we go here, we can see that our image has a source. So what that means is that you just need to source the image. So you need to tell the computer what image you want. So the easiest way to do that is to put the image that you want in the folder that your HTML file is in. So for the online editor, that doesn't really work. So I mean, I guess you would just have to use an actual HTML file to see what I'm doing. So you would have to move that, you would have to save that image onto your PC or your laptop, and you would have to save it to the folder that your HTML file is in. Then what you do is you open your HTML file, and just like in the example, you have your image tag, then you have your source equals, and inside those quotation marks, you would just put the name of your image. So over here, it's called download.jpg. So do you understand that now? Okay. So the last part that they showed you guys is this alt. So what the alt is that just in case the image can't load, it'll show some, it'll show a, what's it called? It'll show a block of text. So say we take out the JPEG. So it can't load the image since we didn't write the source of the image correctly. So instead what it does is that it shows this icon that there's supposed to be a picture here, and it shows what it would have been. The title of that picture that we put in is Flowers of Chania. So for example, I could set up an alt equals uh, black hole. So see how the alt is different from the name of my image. So say I have down low instead of download. So now what it would do is that it wouldn't be able to show the image. So what it does is that it shows the title that I've given it, black hole, not download, but black hole. So does everybody understand that? Okay, so I think images is a good place to stop for today. So we went over how to make a game. So for your homework, I would like you guys to try and duplicate this. Okay? And when we come to class next week, maybe I'll give you guys how to check what type of image is that. So you would go to your folder and you would go here. And uh, unfortunately, I'm not able to zoom in, but there's a type portion. So then you would check if it is what kind of type it is. So over here it says JPG file. So you would put download.jpg. So what about last week's scratch? We were not able to do it. Yeah, that's the point of last week's exercise actually. Aryan, okay. Actually, I'm not going to show Sprite 1's blocks because they're pretty simple. And I think that's like the one thing that I would expect you guys to do without looking. So if I had to say what exactly it does, so when press right arrow, move right, uh, and then another one, when press left arrow, move left. That's what your Sprite 1 should do. Okay? And then for your I completed the program. Okay, that's good. We'll go over it next week. Okay? So even if you guys have completed it, we'll go over it next week. And where do we get move block? So you would get it in the motion tab. So you would do move 10 steps or move negative 10 steps. So what that does is that it either moves 10 steps in the direction that it's facing, if it's plus 10, or if it's minus 10, then it moves 10 steps in the opposite direction that it's facing. Yeah, so it's under the motion tab. So if the questions that you guys have are pertaining to the homework, then I think we can close the class and meet up next week where we'll go over it. Maybe there will be some more people. And that's it. Have a great night, I guess.